In 2006, the Headless body case shocked China. The case was shocking not only because of the brutality of the perpetrator, but also because of the stories behind the case. If we did not follow this case, we would not believe that such immoral events could happen in real life. Let's watch the video below to know the details of today's case.
Hello, and welcome to Unmasked.
On the morning of May 5, 2006, a man named Cao Chenghan in Chang County, Hunan province reported a serious incident to the police. He was fishing on the Shang Chao River when he discovered a body floating in the river. What was even more horrifying was that the body had no head and was in an advanced stage of decomposition, giving off a foul odor. Immediately after receiving the report, the Chang County police mobilized forces to the scene. The police rowed a boat to the middle of the river, where the body was entangled in the hyacinths, and began to recover it. The first thing they identified was that the body belonged to a headless woman. Forensic doctors were sent to the scene to perform an autopsy. The autopsy results indicated that the victim was between 65 and 70 years old and had been dead for 3 to 5 days. The body was swollen, with the palms and soles pale. The skin had started to wrinkle and peel off due to prolonged immersion in water. The victim was not only missing her head, but also her ring finger. The woman was wearing a red 2-strap nightgown, with no underwear either on top or bottom. This style of clothing was deemed inappropriate for her age. There were no significant injuries on the victim's body. Upon examining the victim's vagina, the police found traces of semen. Based on this detail, the investigation team speculated that the victim had sexual intercourse with someone before being killed. This person could likely be the perpetrator. Since the victim's body showed no signs of scratches or bruises from beatings, the police speculated 2 possibilities. The first possibility is that the victim voluntarily had sexual intercourse. The second possibility is that the perpetrator sexually assaulted the victim after she was already dead. Since the victim was missing some body parts, the investigation team believed that the Chang Chao River was only a dumping site. The perpetrator may have deliberately removed the victim's head to prevent identification. However, the reason why the ring finger was also missing remains unexplained. Based on this reasoning, if the perpetrator intended to prevent the body from being identified, it's highly likely they wouldn't dispose of the head in the river. However, to ensure no clues were overlooked, the investigation team coordinated with local environmental workers and residents to search. After many hours, they still found nothing further. As the skin had peeled off, it was impossible to extract fingerprint. Without the head, the identification process became extremely difficult. The investigation team questioned the villagers to see if there had been any recent cases of missing women, but they found nothing. This suggested that the victim might not be a local resident. The investigation team then posted information about the body discovered in the Chang Chao River, Chang County, in the newspaper. 2 days later, a 55-year-old man named Chen Zhongkang came to the Changde police station after seeing the information. Chen Zhongkang told the police that his sister, Chen Suliu, 70 years old, in the nearby Hunan County, had been missing for several days. Although the family had reported it to the local police for a search, there had been no results. The police then took nail samples and conducted a DNA analysis of the victim and the man named Chen Zhongkang. The results showed that the victim was indeed Chen Zhongkang's sister, Chen Suliu. The Changde County Police quickly went to the Hunan County Police Department to coordinate the investigation. Lu Yingjie, Chen Suliu's son, said he had lost contact with his mother since May 2nd. On the afternoon of May 2nd, after work, Jay stopped by his mother's house to bring her some food, as he had just received his salary. However, when he arrived, the door was locked from the inside. Lu Yingji called, and he heard the phone ringing from inside. Ji ran to the neighboring houses and learned that no one had seen Chen Suliu inside the house all morning. Lu Yingjie became worried and called a few relatives nearby, but they said that Liu had not gone to their houses. Lu Yingji called his wife to help search. By the next morning, they still hadn't found his mother, so the couple went to the police station to report her missing. According to the testimony, around 6 p.m. on May 1st, Lu Yingji left Liu's house. By the afternoon of May 2nd, he lost contact with his mother. Based on this information, it's likely that Chen Suliu met with harm on the night of May 1st or early morning on May 2nd. After recording the information and with Lu Yingji's consent, the investigation team broke into Chen Suliu's house to check. Inside, all the windows were carefully curtained. The items in the house were very tidy, with no signs of being rummaged through. Police asked Lu Yingji to check if any money or valuable items were missing. After checking, Jie reported that his mother had kept some savings worth 10,000 yuan in a drawer, but it was now missing. Another unusual point was that on the sofa, Lu Yingji found an old man's coat, but he didn't know who it belonged to. The investigation team then inquired about Chen Suliu's daily activities and social relationships. Lu Yingji said that his mother was now 70 years old but still in good health. Lu didn't have to work and lived off the monthly allowance he provided. Although the couple didn't live with his mother, they visited her every weekend and sometimes during the week. Liu occasionally stayed over at her son's house at night. Every morning, she would either go for a walk with the neighbors or play mahjong to pass the time. Lu Yingji shared that his father passed away early, leaving him and his mother to live together until he got married and moved out. In the past, Mrs. Liu tried dating a few people, but it didn't work out due to personality clashes. Moreover, neither party was willing to take on the other's children. However, as Lu Yingji grew older, he realized that his mother was lonely and needed companionship, so he encouraged her to find a partner. Initially, Mrs. Liu was hesitant, but after her son got married and moved out, she found her daily life quite dull and began meeting with a fellow villager named Gui Gongping. Although they didn't have an official relationship, Gui Gongping often visited Mrs. Chen Suliu at her home to chat. Gui Gongping is now 70 years old. Villagers commented that he appeared younger and healthier compared to others of the same age. Currently, he lives with his youngest son's family. Neighbors of Mr. Ping revealed that his youngest son, Gui Gongbo, disapproved of his father's relationship with Chen Suliu. Bo believed that his father was too old, and that having children and grandchildren was already a blessing, so there was no need to complicate things by remarrying. On one occasion, neighbors overheard Bo scolding his father for secretly meeting with Mrs. Chen Suliu. Lu Yingji mentioned that he and his wife once visited Mr. Ping's house to talk to his son, Gui Gongbo. Jie wanted Bo to accept the relationship between his mother and Mr. Ping, allowing them to be together in their old age. Although both had children of their own, those children had their own families, and the elderly still needed companionship. However, Gui Gongbo, being a traditional and domineering man, could not accept this and asked Lu Yingji never to bring it up again. Neighbors of Mrs. Liu disclosed that about 2 weeks ago, Gui Gongbo visited Mrs. Chen Suliu to reprimand her harshly. He accused her of seducing his elderly father, despite her age. Bo warned Mrs. Liu and his father against seeing each other again, threatening dire consequences if they continued. Mr. Ping confessed to the police that on the afternoon of May 1st, he secretly visited Mrs. Liu and forgot his coat at her house. However, it seemed that his son, Gui Gongbo, had found out about it. When Mr. Ping returned home, Bo displayed a very hostile attitude. Mr. Ping tried to engage him in conversation, but Bo stormed into his room without saying a word. Mr. Ping overheard his son talking to someone on the phone. Throughout the call, Gui Gongbo repeatedly cursed and said, "That woman is really asking for it. She must have a death wish." Hearing these words, Mr. Ping grew concerned. He questioned his son about what had happened. Ba remained silent. That night, Gui Gongbo didn't return home, and his wife didn't know where he had gone. His phone was unreachable. Mrs. Ba shared that her husband was always displeased with the relationship between his father and Mrs. Liu, considering it embarrassing. In Ba's eyes, Chen Suliu was taking advantage of his father because of their wealth, and he believed she had no good intention. The investigation team immediately went to the printing factory where Gui Gongbo worked to question him. When asked about Chen Suliu, Ba became extremely angry and demanded, "Why are you asking me about this person? I have nothing to say." Police explained that he was a suspect in connection with Chen Suliu's death. Ba was startled and asked, "What happened to Mrs. Liu?" His reaction seemed genuinely surprised. The investigation team then asked Ba where he was and what he did on the evening of May 1st. Gui Gongbo hesitated, claiming he couldn't remember. When the police brought up the phone conversation from that afternoon asking about the woman he angrily referred to, Ba thought for a long time before responding that she was an immoral woman who lured men. According to Gui Gongbo, the phone call on the afternoon of May 1st was with his sister, Gui Kengyan. The woman he mentioned was Vung Seung, who had been involved with his brother-in-law. Despite multiple warnings from Ba and his sister, Vung Seung continued her affair, which infuriated Nan. On the night of May 1st, Gui Gongbo accompanied his sister to catch the couple in the act. He threatened Vung Seung, warning her not to see his brother-in-law again or face consequences. After dealing with this situation, Gui Gongbo took his sister home. Seeing her crying and distressed and considering she had a small child, Ba decided to stay the night, comfort her, and help with the baby. The investigation team then analyzed the DNA samples of Gui Gongbo and Gui Gongping, comparing them with the semen sample. They did not match. As Mr. Ping was home all evening on May 1st, he had no time to commit the crime. With no immediate suspects, the investigation team began considering other strategies. In the days that followed, the investigation team no longer openly searched for clues around Mrs. Liu's house, but instead went undercover to monitor those connected to her. Observing the behavior of Mr. Ping and his son, they noticed no signs of fear or unusual action. As for Mrs. Liu's daughter-in-law, Yan Kei, she seemed completely indifferent to her mother-in-law's death. Every time she went to the market, people noticed her chatting and laughing as usual. However, Mrs. Chen Suliu's son, Lu Yingji, exhibited very odd behavior. Neighbors saw him either sitting forlornly in front of his mother's house or pacing back and forth, constantly looking around. Noticing that Yan Kei and Lu Yingji were the most suspicious, the investigation team decided to monitor their actions. A police officer saw Lu Yingji leaving a local bank shortly before closing time. The officer then entered the bank, greeted the staff, and inquired about Lu Yingji's recent transactions. The bank staff revealed that Lu Yingji had just withdrawn 10,000 yuan from his mother Chen Suliu's savings account. Since he had all the necessary documents, he successfully made the withdrawal. Lu Yingji claimed that his mother's 10,000 yuan was stolen, but today he withdrew the same amount from her savings. This implied that he was lying. But why would he lie? While keeping an eye on Lu Yingji, another group of officers was assigned to follow his wife, Yan Kei. Yan Kei disclosed to the police that on the afternoon of May 1st, she and her husband had a fierce argument. Lu Yingji then left and didn't return until the next morning. However, he never mentioned where he had gone or what he did that night. According to Yan Kei, the relationship between Jie and his mother was quite erratic. Sometimes they seemed to love each other, but other times they had intense arguments. At this point, the investigation team began to suspect Lu Yingji and brought him in for questioning. Faced with the police, Lu Yingji was very confused, not understanding why he was a suspect. Despite being interrogated for hours, he consistently denied any involvement, claiming he was being misunderstood. Although there was suspicion, without concrete evidence, police had to release Jie. In the following days, through Lu Yingji's friends, investigators uncovered a surprising truth. Based on information from one of his friends, the police visited Jie's home under the pretext of gathering additional information for the investigation. Finally, after this visit, the police had the key evidence against Lu Yingji and the critical clue to the case. Later, Jie was summoned to the police station once again for questioning. This time, the police presented a crucial piece of evidence and brought in Jie's friend for a face-to-face confrontation. After hours of evasive denials, Lu Yingji finally confessed to murdering his own mother. Let's continue listening to the story below to uncover the hidden truth and the evidence that led Lu Yingji to admit his guilt. Liu Yingjie was born in 1960 in Shangdai Village, Hengyang County, Hunan Province. Jie was the only child in his family and the eldest grandson of the Liu lineage. His father, Liu Bo-wei, worked as a coal miner in the district. Jie's birth brought great excitement and motivation for his parents to work even harder. However, their happiness was short-lived as tragedy struck the Liu family. In 1965, Liu Bo-wei unfortunately died in a work-related accident, leaving Chen Suliu to struggle alone to raise their son. Since his father passed away when he was very young, Liu Yingjie had no memories of him. To Jie, Chen Suliu was both father and mother. In the early years after her husband's death, Chen Suliu worked hard to provide for her son as best she could. However, she soon realized that the farming work in her village did not generate much income, and it was too unstable to support both mother and son. Therefore, she decided to seek a livelihood elsewhere, leaving Liu Yingjie in the care of his maternal grandparent. At the age of 5, Liu Yingjie was separated from his mother. His grandparents lived in a remote rural area, so his childhood was not particularly memorable. He had few friends, little exposure to the outside world, and especially lacked parental affection. Chen Suliu left the village to work as a laborer in the city of Nisuan, Hubei province, which was far from home. As a result, she rarely visited. She would only come home once a year during the Lunar New Year. Since she was illiterate, Chen Suliu could not write letters to her family. Every month, after receiving her salary, she would consistently send a small living allowance back home. Without the care and love of his parents, Liu Yingjie started showing signs of mischievousness and hyperactivity from a young age. His academic performance was poor, and he often caused trouble for his classmates. His teachers frequently called his grandparents to school to discuss his behavior. However, due to their old age, his grandparents couldn't discipline him physically. They could only use gentle words, hoping that Jie would listen. Without strict discipline, Liu Yingjie became increasingly difficult to manage. In his 4th year of middle school, Liu Yingjie got into a fight that left another male student injured. After this incident, Jie lost interest in attending school and dropped out on his own. During his time at home, Liu Yingjie began hanging out with various groups of friends, smoking, and stealing small items. Despite being reprimanded and sent to juvenile reform programs multiple times, he reverted to his old habits once released, unable to abandon his bad behavior. Life continued like this until his grandparents passed away one after another, due to serious illnesses. Liu Yingjie then started living alone in the village, surviving on the monthly allowance from his mother. This time, with no one to oversee him, Jie began engaging in behaviors that led to more serious consequences. Seeing that letting her son continue living alone would inevitably lead to more trouble, Chen Suliu decided to quit her job in Hubei and return to her hometown to take care of him. During this period, Chen Suliu also dated several men in the village, but the relationships ended quickly as none of them were willing to take on the responsibility of raising her son. Feeling sorry for her son, who had grown up without a father, Chen Suliu decided not to date anyone else and devoted all her love to Liu Yingjie. Gradually, Liu Yingjie felt his mother's love and became happier. He no longer caused trouble like before. Instead, he changed, becoming an obedient teenager who helped his mother with household chores. In the eyes of the neighbors, Liu Yingjie had changed significantly. Two lived harmoniously. Until 1977, when Liu Yingjie was 17 years old, during an outing with friends, he got too drunk and had to be brought home by his friends. Seeing her son in a drunken state, Chen Suliu was extremely angry and scolded him. But she still took a warm cloth to clean his body. While cleaning Liu Yingjie's neck and face, Chen Suliu suddenly had a strange idea. She reached out to unbutton her shirt and took the initiative to lie on top of her son. Liu Yingjie lost control of his actions and the two had sex right in Liu Yingjie's bedroom. The next morning, when he woke up, Liu Yingjie was extremely shocked by the scene before his eyes. He did not believe that he had done something bad to his biological mother. However, Chen Suliu's reaction at this time was also very strange. She did not blame her son but also praised Liu Yingjie for his good performance. Chen Suliu lay next to Jie, smiling and praising him for really growing up. When the two had sex, Liu Yingjie was 17 years old, and Mrs. Chen Suliu was 41 years old. After that mistake, Liu Yingjie always felt guilty and gradually distanced himself from his mother. However, Chen Suliu was the opposite. She always had gestures of caressing her son, making him wary. There were times when Liu Yingjie was sleeping, and Chen Suliu sneaked into the room to sleep together. She put her hands on Hun's body parts and started to have perverted behaviors. At first, Liu Yingjie also tried to resist, thinking that his mother was having problems, but later on he gradually felt normal because after all, Liu Yingjie was in puberty. Such things made him more interested. From then on, Liu Yingjie and Chen Suliu began an incestuous relationship. At night, the two would sleep together. On the outside, they were mother and son, but in reality, they were no different from a husband and wife relationship. It was not until he was 20 years old, when Liu Yingjie worked in a factory, that he realized the sick nature of this relationship. Especially when his friends talked about their lovers, Liu Yingjie blushed and felt embarrassed. Liu Yingjie once suggested ending everything, but when Chen Suliu heard, he immediately rejected it. Chen Suliu affirmed that there was nothing to be ashamed of because Jie's life was given to her. She could do whatever she wanted and no one was allowed to object. Chen Suliu began to have the desire to control her son. She saw that it was late, but Liu Yingjie still hadn't come home from work. She would go to the factory to find him. She always asked in detail if he had talked to anyone of the opposite sex today. He gave all the money Liu Yingjie earned every month to his mother, leaving only a small amount in case of problems when he went out. Chen Suliu explained that she kept the money for her son because she was afraid that he would spend it lavishly, but in fact, she was afraid that Liu Yingjie would abandon her if he had money. At this time, Liu Yingjie was old enough to get married. The matchmaker also intended to match him with a beautiful girl in the village. However, Chen Suliu firmly forbade this. She even declared to the neighbors that Liu Yingjie only needed to live with his mother. Up until now, she has been taking good care of her son by herself, so Jie doesn't need anyone else. As time passed, the villagers began to spread rumors that Liu Yingjie had health problems, so he refused to get married. Because he wanted to confirm that he was completely healthy and normal, Liu Yingjie secretly dated a girl named Zhou Keiwei. In 1987, when he felt true love, Liu Yingjie thought about rebelling. He did not want to live under his mother's shadow for the rest of his life, so he became stronger and more assertive. When Jie mentioned marriage, Chen Suliu immediately objected, but Jie completely ignored this. Although Chen Suliu threatened Zhou Keiwei many times, Liu Yingjie still brought his lover home to live together. On the day he registered his marriage, Liu Yingjie felt extremely relieved and began to think about the beautiful future days with his small family. However, real life is very different from what Liu Yingjie imagined. Although he and his wife had moved out, Chen Suliu came to visit every day, saying that he was cleaning the house, but in reality, he was monitoring his son and his wife's behavior. When she saw the newlyweds having intimate gestures, Chen Suliu looked upset, pretending to have some problem to receive her son's attention. After a while, seeing Liu Yingjie giving his salary to Zhou Keiwei to keep, Chen Suliu began to collapse like a wife abandoned by a third person. Chen Suliu constantly treated her daughter-in-law badly. She criticized her daughter-in-law for being a bad cook, not knowing how to do housework, not being able to earn a living, only adding to the burden on her son. Sometimes Chen Suliu came to visit and sleep at her son's house. She tried to find excuses to prevent her daughter-in-law from sleeping with her husband because she was afraid that she would not let Liu Yingjie rest. Zhou Keiwei knew that her mother-in-law did not like her, so she was a little angry at Liu Yingjie. To make peace with his wife, Liu Yingjie had no choice but to go home to negotiate with his mother. Liu Yingjie hoped that his mother would stop interfering in his marriage. Mrs. Chen Suliu agreed to this, with one condition. Jie had to return to their previous relationship. Although he did not want to, for the sake of his family, Liu Yingjie still nodded in agreement. From then on, whenever Chen Suliu had a need, Liu Yingjie had to come immediately. Such things happened over and over again, causing Zhou Kewei to begin to realize that something was wrong because the marital conflict could not be resolved. Half a year later, Jie and Kui went their separate ways. Not long after breaking up with Zhou Kewei, Lu Yingji married again. This made Chen Suliu extremely angry. This time was no different from the previous time. Chen Suliu beat and scolded her daughter-in-law violently. She even moved in with the couple. Not long after, the new daughter-in-law could not stand it anymore and filed for divorce. During that time, rumors spread that Lu Yingji was an abusive and unfaithful husband. So both wives could not stand it and left. All the blame was placed on Jie, making him unable to look up to people every time he went out. After that, Lu Yingji worked hard, trying to overcome the pressure of public opinion. Not long after, Ji remarried a woman named Yan Ke. Yan Ke had a fierce personality, but Chen Suliu still found excuses to cause trouble and harass. Yan Ke's attitude of resistance, arguing back, and even chasing his mother-in-law out made no one willing to put up with each other, and the family was always restless. After that, Mrs. Liu met a man named Gui Gongping. Two often went back and forth happily. But because Mr. Ping was forbidden by his children, they could only maintain a secret relationship. He thought that with Mr. Ping's presence, his mother would let him go. But in reality, that was not the case. Besides Mr. Ping, Mrs. Liu also greedily wanted to keep her son, and at the same time possessed both of them. This made Jie extremely angry. On May 1, 2006, after receiving his salary, Lu Yingji gave money to his wife as usual. However, this time, Yan Ke discovered that the money was missing, so he asked his husband. Lu Yingji would rather be scolded by his wife than dare to say that he had given some to his mother. The relationship between Jie and his wife began to become tense. Seeing that her husband cared more about his mother, Yan Ke became even angrier. Although Lu Yingji wanted to explain to his wife, it was really difficult to open his mouth. Unable to explain where the remaining money was, Lu Yingji was kicked out of the house by his wife. The more he thought about it, the angrier he became. But he didn't know how to vent his anger, so he went out to relax. At this time, Jie suddenly received a phone call from Chen Suliu. She invited her son to come over for dinner. Because he had nowhere to go, Lu Yingji immediately agreed and said he would come right away. During the meal, Lu Yingji was invited by his mother to drink some wine. When he was drunk, Lu Yingji began to remember his wife's scolding words. He blamed all the misfortunes in his life on Chen Suliu. If it weren't for such a perverted mother, he would probably have a perfect marriage, a happy family with children. Currently, Jie had to make his wife happy and satisfy his mother's needs. Life continued like this, making him extremely tired. But if he didn't comply, his mother would reveal the secret of the past years, at which point Lu Yingji would be in an even more difficult position. Chen Suliu knew where Lu Yingji worked, and if she went there to cause trouble, Jie would lose his job. The more Lu Yingji thought about it, the more frustrated he felt. At this moment, Chen Suliu suddenly left the dining table and went inside to do something. When she came out, Chen Suliu was wearing pajamas for 2 seconds, standing in front of her son, deliberately pulling down the straps of her shirt as if it was an act of seduction. Witnessing this scene, Lu Yingji, who was a little drunk, couldn't control himself and immediately walked over and hugged his mother. Two then had sex. While sleeping together, Lu Yingji told Chen Suliu about the times he was scolded by Yan Ke's wife. However, Chen Suliu not only did not comfort him, but also encouraged her son to divorce, end everything, and return to live with her. Chen Suliu emphasized that if Yan Ke did not agree, she would help Lu Yingji plan to kill her. Hearing these words, Lu Yingji felt disgusted by Chen Suliu's ambition. He stood up to leave, but Mrs. Liu immediately pulled him back and asked her son to give him some more pocket money. Hearing this, Lu Yingji did not leave, but lay on the bed, thinking of a plan in his head. At around 1 a.m. the next day, taking advantage of the moment when Chen Suliu was sleeping soundly, Lu Yingji used his hand to strangle her. Chen Suliu woke up in a state of panic. She scratched her son with her hand in the hope that he would stop. However, at that moment, Lu Yingji did not think much. He just wanted his mother to die so that his life could be peaceful in the future. A moment later, Mrs. Liu could not breathe and passed away forever, into the hands of her son. Chen Suliu passed away with her eyes open. When looking into his mother's wide-open eyes, Lu Yingji suddenly felt quite scared. After thinking for a while, Ji went into the kitchen to get a machete and proceeded to remove the victim's head. Then, Lu Yingji also cut off Mrs. Chen Suliu's ring finger. Ji put the head and finger in a bag and buried them in the garden. The rest of the body, Lu Yingji put on a tricycle and took it to a river quite far away to throw it away to destroy the evidence. After disposing of the body, Lu Yingji returned home and cleaned up the scene very thoroughly. He took his mother's savings book worth 10,000 yuan and brought it home to hide. 2 days later, Lu Yingji pretended to go to the police station, report his mother missing. Based on Lu Yingji's statement, the police found a plastic bag containing Chen Suliu's finger and head. At the same time, in the bushes of Chen Suliu's house, the investigation team discovered a kitchen knife stained with the victim's blood. The reason the police found important evidence was because they heard information from a friend of Lu Yingji named Bang Truong. Previously, Jie had told Truong about the unusual story of Jie and his mother. Regarding the relationship between Mrs. Liu and her mother, neighbors also revealed that they had witnessed Mrs. Liu and her mother hugging and kissing each other, but did not think much of it, because they thought their mother-child relationship was truly sacred. Because of these two clues, during the last house search, the police secretly took Jay's toothbrush to analyze the DNA. The result completely matched the DNA of the semen sample collected in the victim's vagina. With this solid evidence, Lu Yingji could not help but plead guilty. In the intermediate trial, the People's Court of Vinchao City prosecuted Lu Yingji and the victim, Mrs. Chen Suliu, even though the victim had passed away. Accordingly, the court declared that Miss Chen Suliu had committed incest with her biological son many times, leading to her son's 2 broken marriages. This is extremely condemnable and against morality. As for the murderer Lu Yingji, he could not resolve his relationship with his mother and murdered his biological mother, and was eventually convicted of intentional murder and received the highest sentence, which is the death penalty. The story behind today's case is truly unexpected. The issue raised in the case is an issue that has stirred up Chinese public opinion for a long time. What do you think about this case? About the story between Chen Suliu and Lu Yingji? Please comment below to let us know. Thank you for watching today's video. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Learn more about mysterious cases around the world.